What's up, everybody? Happy post-Thanksgiving PHNX Cardinals podcast. It's PHNX Cardinals here, flavoring Fridays, presented by our friends OGs. So much good stuff to talk about today, including Brack, Black Friday sale at gophnx.com. Save up to 90% off. You and I have been dabbling. I'm Johnny Venerable. He, of course, is Brack. Deals on deals on deals. Can we get a deal on what's going on with this receiver core with the Arizona Cardinals? We're going to talk about that. Can the Cardinals maybe get a discount deal on a now free agent pass rusher and Derek Barnett? But wait, how are you doing now post Thanksgiving here about 24 hours?
I think the tryptophan it's worn off. I didn't go back for fourths at this point in the journey that we're all enjoying here. Hopefully, a lot of you got some well-deserved downtime. But yeah, if you could go Black Friday shopping for some wide receivers, I think Jonathan Gannon, Monty Osfort would certainly do so because they are down tremendous at the position right now. We'll see what happens with Hollywood Brown, Johnny. He's officially questionable. And Michael Wilson already ruled out for a second consecutive week. He's set to miss his third game of his rookie campaign. And the offensive struggles. It doesn't get any easier going into week 12 against the Rams. That's for sure.
I was assuming you were going to do leftovers times 2 today because you're doing the broadcast in your kitchen, which is gorgeous, by the way. But you're not going to sneak a plate here as we do the show.
I'm heating up some, just some sides right now. I got some dressing. I got some mashed potatoes. If I just venture into the back here and pull some of that out of the oven, don't be alarmed.
What's up, everybody in the chat? Like this video. Thanks for hanging out with us. Holiday weekend here as we preview Cardinals hosting at the LA Rams. And, I thought initially when we started this week, Cardinals had a pretty good chance to win this game. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm skeptical because of the fact that compounded injuries defensively. And then now what is going on with this wide receiving core? Michael Wilson, I hate to say it, this is going to be his third game missed in 4 weeks, and kind of leaning into that injury narrative that plagued him, followed him at the collegiate level. And again, he's a rookie. He's got a lot of time to shine for this franchise. But now Hollywood Brown has missed 2 consecutive practices with what's being described as a heel injury. But then I see the workings of you and our guy Howard Bowles or GoPHNX.com saying, well, Cardinals are deeming this precautionary, like they're just being careful. I'm sorry. I feel like Kyler and Hollywood need as many reps on the practice field as they can get. That disconnect and the disconnect, frankly, of this passing game, Bo, it's alarming for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some things that we've been alarmed by, or you think that would be unsettling to the organization itself, and they maintain confidence that they had the right connection in some fashion, and not necessarily always regarding Hollywood Brown and Kyler Murray. And looking at 3 catches for 48 yards, 46 yards in their first 2 games together on 9 targets. That's not that should be something that you're concerned about, but it doesn't seem like, at least between the wide receiver and the quarterback, that there was a whole lot of concern. When we talked to Kyler Murray, he says, look, we've done this before, and they've had plenty of reps dating back to when they were running scout team for the University of Oklahoma, and they're just wrecking sometimes the first team defense, which is true that it happened. And that's where the connection kind of was the origin story of that. So I think if there's one guy that could stand to miss practice, and Hollywood Brown was exiting the practice field when the media was coming out during the open portion today. So he was doing some sort of, you can only speculate, was he doing walkthrough? He's officially questionable for the game with the heel injury. And Gannon did say before practice, they'll see where he is. But yesterday was precautionary, and they're being extra cautious with the heel. And you look up heel injuries, and you can't really find anything that's too alarming there, outside of maybe he's dealing with some sort of soreness in his heel. I have a feeling, and this is just me kind of guessing, that he's more often likely to play than not. That's the feeling I get.
That's the vibe. And again, that's good because, I dropped a piece today, PHNX Sports, Hollywood Brown needs these next 6 weeks. He needs to play well. This would be really bad timing for Hollywood Brown not to play. And I get it. If you're injured and you can't go, right? And I think anybody who's watched this Cardinal offense recently, this passing game in particular, it's like whomever's going to step up a receiver like come on down. Like Greg Dortch, I think we've argued needs added reps. Zach Pascal, you had reported, we talked about it off air. They're ramping him up. Like whether what that looks like, I think that's remains to be seen, especially with no Michael Wilson. I'm just looking at some statistics off the air, and it's like the Cardinals have the least amount of touchdown passes thrown in the NFC. They're last, and they're I think third or fourth last in the NFL. Like the only like teams like the Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers are worse, and then they have the fourth worst passing offense in the NFL, only behind the aforementioned Jets, Pittsburgh Steelers, and the New York Giants, who were an abomination outside of the game in Arizona. So again, you put a big asterisk with that
Yeah.
because Murray missed most of the season. But it's like at the end of the year, nobody's going to want to hear that with or without Kyler Murray if you're Drew Petzing. Like, this is a big game for the Cardinals. This is a big game for the offense and Drew Petzing. Like, this Rams secondary, it's okay. It's fine. Their defense is fine. But you have Kyler Murray, you're playing at home. Like, you need to put points on the board. You've got Trey McBride. We're assuming Hollywood's going to play in some capacity. Greg Dortch, James Conner. Like, it's not good enough this week. The passing game, especially, cannot go up and put up a stinker. You can't have under 20 points again. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. Especially with how this Rams team is performed. I mean, they gave up points to that lowly Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I think in the 20s just a couple weeks ago. I mean, this Rams defense is susceptible to give up points and chunk yardage for the most part. And they kind of have a lot of bend don't break in them. And the Cardinals witnessed that, right? The last time when they faced each other in LA, when they lost, what was it, 26-9?
Yeah.
There was a lot of that where they gave up yards, and you saw it in the run game, and you saw some decent, mostly in the run game. But I think that this is absolutely a wide receiver core that it's necessary that they step up. And I see Arizona Animal saying, "Look, contract year, you got to play." I completely agree with it, and that's why I think Hollywood Brown, it would take something huge to really remove him from the lineup, and he's been nagged for the entire year. I mean, even before the season start, I felt like he was legitimately dealing with issues with his hamstring, leg injuries. He had the thumb issue. Now he has a heel issue. Like, the guy's been beaten up, but he hasn't missed any time, and I think that probably continues this weekend. But now, if that's the case, you look at, okay, now you have to get to where there hasn't been a whole lot of success between him and Kyler Murray. Why there's only been 3 catches on 9 targets for less than 50 yards, because that's got to change as well. That's got to change even more so than just the fact that he's been battered throughout the year.
What would you say is the 3 wide receiver look ahead of this Sunday, of assuming Hollywood does play? Is it as simple as, well, Zach Pascal is going to replace, the aforementioned Michael Wilson. Rondale Moore is going to get more looks, I would assume, in the slot. Hollywood Brown might be on a pitch count, and then Dortch is the first guy off the bench with an emphasis, of course, on, I saw somebody in the chat, Trey McBride needs 20 targets. I agree with that. Not even tongue in cheek. Like, Trey McBride to me is wide receiver 1 this week until I'm told otherwise. Do you think that's probably what they plan to do?
I think that there's going to be an emphasis for McBride and Pascal. And I think that, and then Rondale Moore. And then, of course, you've got Greg Dortch, like myself yesterday, after, the meal was over officially, just getting the scraps, right? Just fighting for scraps and producing at a high level, right? Just elite status, just getting those scraps. And Greg Dortch is great at that. So yeah, I mean, that's what your patchwork wide receiver core looks like. And I think it's exactly right. Like, I think Pascal slides into Z, what they saw from Wilson in the run game, especially a big body guy. And then, a versatile guy in Greg Dortch, that if Hollywood's either not in the lineup full time or just not in the lineup, it's going to be Greg Dortch playing that X. I think you could see some Trey McBride play some X, just having a bigger body out there. And maybe some of the routes that would be more geared towards like the inside. But I think that those are your options. And then I anticipate Rondale Moore having a bigger role, just regardless if it's in the slot or if they're moving him around, just continue to get him more and more incorporated, because outside of the big play last week, he wasn't you didn't hear his name called too often.
I thought that was going to be like the coming out party of Rondale Moore, who we know, but kind of between us and the podcast here, like, he's been clamoring, not like in a negative aspect. He wants more targets. He wants more opportunities. He's been letting the coaches know, like, get me the ball. I'm ready to make plays. I thought after that first drive, I'm like, this is it. It's go time. Rondale's going to have a 100-yard game. He didn't have another target the rest of the game. Like, that was it. And so I think now, especially, we assume Michael Carter is going to make his debut, the ex-Jet. And goodness, after what we're seeing from the Jets today, I know the Cardinals have a worse record. Michael Carter's probably thinking his lucky stars he's not at MetLife today with the bloodbath and Tim Boyle and company and the Fail Mary. But I think Rondale, like the running back RPOs, like, you want to do that 1 or 2 times, that's fine. Put him back at receiver this week. Like, this is a game where you need Rondale more to play wide receiver in the slot underneath Gregory Dortch, interchangeable piece. But I would be very disheartened if we're doing our post-game show, Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass on Sunday afternoon. Trey McBride needs 8 to 10 targets. James Conner needs 20 to 25 touches. Like, that to me is like, if that's not happening, the Cardinals are going to lose, and they could lose by double digits. And I don't want that to happen. But if you go and try to gut it out with Hollywood Brown, you're feeding him targets early and it's not working. Like, it was pretty clear last week in the first quarter, like, this is not working. You need to pivot off of that, because you don't have 4 quarters against this Rams front seven to try to figure that out. You have to make it a priority, because what they do the week before, Atlanta, what they do, Trey McBride for 4 quarters. That worked for 4 quarters. Yeah, and I know Rams defense a little bit different than what they're going to face on Sunday, Atlanta's. But to me, it's like, don't force the ball to Hollywood Brown if it's going to lead to incompletions and turnovers. Like, Trey McBride is open. He was open last weekend. That was a very winnable game in Houston, and you missed open plays to him. I just feel like it also gets Kyler Murray in a comfort level. It's like, let's string some completions together. Let's not start the game 5 of 12. Let's get some momentum going. And I just think Trey is such a dynamic. I saw today, like, quintessential, like a top 5 tight end in the NFL right now. Like, on fantasy football lists, I make it a priority. We're all the Cardinal players. Hollywood Brown's not even mentioned as a top 32 wide receiver right now, fair or not. But you got a top 5 target at tight end in the NFL. Feed him the football. Like, if I'm going to lose this Sunday, I'm going to try to get my best player right now as a receiver the football. And Trey McBride could finish this game, or finish this 6-game stretch, I should say, with more receiving yards than Hollywood Brown. Think about that for a second. How crazy, ass backwards would that would be insane. Like, I think right now Trey McBride almost has the same amount of receiving yards as Hollywood Brown.
Pretty close. I mean, they're all,
That's
I think,
nuts.
there's a trio of guys in the 400s, and it's not a number that you want to bring up, like, trying to make the case for offensive play this season from the Arizona Cardinals playmakers, right? But
He's 25 yards behind him.
right.
Not to interrupt you. Hollywood's at 486. Trey McBride's at 461 with 30 less targets. That's nuts to me.
Yeah, but look, if that's the play you have to make, right? If you have to feed Trey McBride, and we've seen it last 2 games at home, Trey McBride has been an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, 18 catches for 226 yards and a touchdown. If you just feed that beast in the way that they did it against Atlanta, it was real diverse, right? You saw him in the tight end screen game, you saw him down the sidelines, you saw him over the middle of the field, you saw him get the ball just in front of just over the line of scrimmage, and then making plays, yak plays, because he's pretty rock solid with the ball in his hands, right? He's a playmaker himself. So if it needs to be that way, then do it. I think that this defense will set up for it, and you've got to establish that run game with James Conner. Like, there's no question about it. Like, the Arizona Cardinals was one of the first games that they were dealing without James Conner. The last time these two teams matched up, the Arizona Cardinals were able to kind of get it going, kind of find like a little bit of a run game just to kind of keep the defense honest. That if you can get a legit run game, we've seen that this Rams defense goes from, pedestrian, maybe a little bit above average to average to below average. And it's going to come with establishing the run and keeping everybody honest. And that's the way you can elevate this collection of receivers or receiving core, including, Trey McBride.
A lot of love for Bo Brock and his kitchen setup here. Mervin, $5 super chat. So did Bo just buy out Cliff Kingsbury's old Scottsdale house, or what? If he did, I haven't been invited over. How dare you, sir? If you're keeping that secret from your boy, but
Look, the pizza rolls are almost done, gang. Get over here. I'll pop in the oven. We'll get some of the Sunny D or the purple stuff out of the fridge. We'll have a fantastic time together.
Yeah, I'll bring the Dino Nuggets. In the meantime, let's check out the injury report for this week officially. It's not pretty. I mean, like, knock on wood, the Cardinals were relatively healthy for most of the season. Now you look at this injury report this week, Bo. Kazir White out for the year, like he Fotu on injured reserve. Antonio Hamilton, which I cannot believe this team has not put him on injured reserve yet. He's still lingering out there with an out. And then Kevin Strong also out.
Yeah. The defensive line, it's going to be, when we look at it this week, without Fotu, without Kevin Strong, and you see Ledbetter down here, he was limited all week with the shoulder. And we've seen with Michael Wilson that those can act up on you. You could easily kind of re-aggravate something. Led, he's questionable. I think he's good to go. They signed Kevin Stilley to the active roster, who's played some downs for this team. It's very likely that they could elevate for a second consecutive week of Phil Hoskins, who I thought you saw number 79 actually mixing it up quite a bit in his first game for the Cardinals last week. But then we'll see, like, can Naquan Jones find himself getting elevated maybe this week? Somebody they picked up from the Tennessee Titans after they released him. Somebody that Monty Osborne's familiar with, who I think believes at some point can be a player for this team. And you're once again relying on your 6th-round rookie, final pick of your 2023 draft class, Dante Stills, to put up, a big game. And he's done so. He's absolutely answered the call every time. But it's one of those groups, the defensive line, you have zero margin for error. And I'd be curious to see if, instead of they like 5 guys for that rotation, maybe they stock one extra guy just because they're down pretty significantly at that position.
Like, Sean McVay knows how to beat the Cardinals. He has almost a 900 winning percentage against this franchise. Like, they can air it out when push comes to shove. We're going to talk about the status of Cooper Kupp and Puka and Matthew Stafford, but he also knows, like, McVay is so good at what he does. He knows, and we saw it in the second half of the game in LA, we can stop screwing around and we can run the football right at the Arizona Cardinals. There's very little they can do about it. Like, the run defense in the second half at SoFi was very disheartening. And, like, if anything, the Cardinals have gotten worse in terms of personnel. They've lost Kazir White, like he Fotu, and Buddha and Jalen are playing. I don't think they played against LA. So, I mean, it's going to be difficult. This game on paper, I feel like depending on what you think of Seattle right now, this is their best shot to get a divisional win in 2023. And, like, Jonathan Gannon, I'm sure doesn't want to lose any games, but to be like 0-6 his first year in the NFC West, it's a tough place to be, because we knew definitively what the biggest reason they needed to move off of Cliff Kingsbury. They were out coached. It was a coaching mismatch every time. You saddled up against Pete Carroll, Kyle Shanahan, and Sean McVay. So it would be disheartening if the Cardinals, albeit with an undermanned roster, went 0-6 in this division. So I think that's kind of a storyline not many folks are keen in on, but, like, you got 2 more shots here, 3 more shots. Realistically,
Right.
They gotta go to Santa Clara. But I mean, we'll preview that game when we get to it. But to me, it's like, this Rams team is not very good. The quarterback's injury prone. He's turnover prone. Their defense is pretty middling. Like, Kyler Murray can win you this game. You put a good game plan together, he can win you this game. But, has the defense taken too many body blows? Is it realistic to ask them to repeat the performance from last week, especially with no Kazir White and Lecky Fotu now? I don't know how many more shots they can take. And I don't know how many more times we can give opportunities to this offense and them not produce. Like, it's almost coming to a head this weekend. Like, it feels like something has to give at State Farm Stadium this weekend. Like, are we going to see the offense turn the corner? Can the defense continue to be opportunistic? I don't know. I want to be optimistic about this game, but, like, the closer we get to it, I don't have a good feeling because of the Rams' dominance and because of the state of this roster right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going opposite directions in that, because I actually do think that this is a very, very winnable game on Sunday, especially if the Cardinals, it would be absolutely outlandish if they win the turnover battle by a significant margin like they've done twice this year, one against another division game in Seattle, and then it was 3. I think they were +3, and then they were +3 last week, and they lose those football games. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, if the offense gets back on track and the defense continues like the status quo from the last couple of weeks, that's why I'm confident. Like, at home, I think you can get a dub against this Rams team that, sure, they're getting some key players back on the offensive side of the football, especially at the running back position, but Matthew Stafford's not right. Matthew Stafford has been pretty mid all season long, and I know he's been dealing with a thumb injury, but when you look at, the outlier game is kind of the game he had against the Cardinals. If they can do it like they did against CJ Stroud, and they can take a guy who was right around hovering just over 50% completion percentage, if they can force Matthew Stafford into some mistakes, I think that the offense will oblige this time with some complimentary football. It's even without Hollywood Brown, and Hollywood Brown wasn't a big part of the equation the last time in Kyler Murray's debut when they seemed like they had one of their better performances of the season. This is something I think that the Cardinals, they could eke out a win at home against the Rams. This is the time. This is what's important, I think, to me, as far as the evaluation of this coaching staff, Johnny, where, like you mentioned, we've seen them play their division rivals 3 times. This is the second season, right? And if you want to kind of create or some momentum going into the offseason, getting a dub against one of these division opponents, it would go a long way. And to your point, this is probably your best opportunity. I know Seattle's playing some piss poor football lately. Is recently as last night. I just think that this is your opportunity. Like, I still look at this Rams roster, and it's well coached, man. Like, that can't go understated or discounted at all. I mean, that's one of the main reasons they are 4-6, and they're not, like the Arizona Cardinals, just 2 wins on the season. I think that this is a huge chance for them.
Rosters are actually really comparable. Like, quarterbacks that have been injured, we got some nice skill players, and then defensively they've got a stud player and then not much else. The Cardinals have Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, and some kind of mishmash of young players. I mean, I would love to see Stafford be off early and the Cardinals to be able to run up and run away with this, because I do think, like, if the Rams are in a position to kind of put their head down and run the football like they did at SoFi, it's going to be difficult for the Cardinals. But if the Cardinals can jump out 10-0, 13-3, something like that, and then they'll be in a good spot, I think, with their pass rush that's been better and better with each week. We're talking about, could they bolster their pass rush here over the next 6 weeks? 5 weeks is an evaluation. We're going to talk about a recently released player from Jonathan Gannon's neck of the woods in Philadelphia. But first, I'm not sure if you guys have been monitoring the line for this weekend. So first, Bo, when this line was introduced, it was almost a pick 'em. Then it shifted to +1 for the Cardinals. Right now, I mean, this is kind of showing you what the line has gone to. A lot of people are betting the Arizona Cardinals to win this game outright, which has led to the folks in Vegas. They're pumping up the Rams odds a little bit. Right now, you can get the LA Rams and the Arizona Cardinals at +2.5 right now. So again, tempting, but regardless, use that bonus code PHNX. There's so much to be thankful for. Family, friends, food, and the NFL, football all week long. DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping your Thanksgiving full this entire weekend of action. So we had the egregious Black Friday game today. We had a banner slate of football yesterday, but we still got football on deck Sunday and Monday. Use that bonus code PHNX. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on the NFL Thanksgiving action to score $150 instantly in bonus bets, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the National Football League. With that code PHNX, the crown is yours. You got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you're in New York, 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Again, you got to be 21 and older in most states eligible, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after they issue, so use them quick. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for more information.
Thinking about getting some tickets to the Territorial Cup tomorrow. Some good deals there, of course, to watch U of A, ASU, or of course, you can go see Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, Rams, Cardinals. Open up the Game Time app. You could actually hit the bars on Mill before you even get your tickets before the game tomorrow, and then lock them in with our friends over at Game Time and save some money while doing so. Already used Game Time several times this year. Got my wife and my son tickets to the Giants Cardinals game. Of course, the experience was a lot better than the outcome of the game where the team collapsed in the second half, but they had great seats. They got a parking pass from it too for dirt cheap. We've seen a couple concerts, also saw some stand up as well using Game Time. And it was at the last second because I'm a procrastinator like a lot of you out there. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code PHNX. You'll get $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Terms apply, of course. Create that account, redeem code PHNX. That gets you the $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. You see this Tim Boyle completed like 27 passes for 179 yards. He
Nice.
almost completed 30 passes for under 200 yards. That's unbelievable. That guy's terrible at football.
The Jets are the biggest embarrassment in the NFL. Like the Cardinals may be bad. Think about the Jets, like their aspirations this year. Like, let's just say both teams lose out. Jets have 4 wins, Cardinals have 2. Like, you feel completely different about the state of the Cardinals as compared to the Jets. Like these teams that have mortgaged their future and then it just kind of went up in flames this year, it's pretty laughable. Like Carolina, for instance, like Carolina, they got to make it work with what they have. The Jets, they got to run it back with a one-legged Aaron Rodgers. Like Cardinals have options, a ton of options. One of them, maybe a free agent now pass rusher out of Philadelphia, former first-round pick Derek Barnett, outside linebacker, edge rusher that went in the first round, I think back in 2017. It's been a hot minute. Out of Tennessee, has been released. Has not been productive. He was the 14th overall pick that year. Hassan Reddick went a couple picks before. He's a free agent. Now, I have to get this clarified. Is he a free agent subject to waivers, or is he an outright free agent vested veteran? I haven't been able to figure that out. But in the meantime, should be noted, had some productive years with one Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis, who was linebacker defensive end coach for Philadelphia. They know him. They know what he can do. While he leaves a little bit to be desired from a pass rushing standpoint, he's a very good run defender. He was very good under Jonathan Gannon as a run defender as early as last year. So what I would say is, if the Cardinals have an opportunity to bring him in, the remaining amount that any team would have to pay him, $500,000 for about 6 games if they were to acquire him. I'm going to tell you right now, I get it. He's 27 years old. A lot of people say, why would we bring somebody in the last month and a half of the season? I think same reason with somebody like Michael Carter. Cheap evaluation. Let's see if they stick. And it's a position right now we could use quality depth. I know Lecky Fotun, because your White play different positions, Bo. I look at this and like, hey, you want to come and play situational pass rushing downs? You want to help, play the run for a team that's looking for future stalwarts? What would you say about the Cardinals if a waiver claim could be had, second overall? Are you making this move?
Probably not. I look at that as actually just an absolutely just stocked room, right? There's nobody that truly stands out. Clearly, you like what you've seen from B.J. Ojulari, what you've seen from Zaven Collins, Dennis Gardeck, Victor Dimukeje, and then on top of that, you got Cameron Thomas. You got a guy who's been very versatile and adaptable, and Jesse Luketa. It's one of the healthiest position groups on this team. I mean, so healthy that, it's such a stacked room that they just outright released Majay Sanders, who played for the last team they played in Houston. So I just don't see it happening just because of the numbers of it. Like the point that you made about Kazir playing off-ball linebacker and being down like Ifotu. Like if he played corner, if he played any other position, I think the Arizona Cardinals look at him, especially with his just familiarity with the system. But it's just like they're 6 deep at that position right now. It was a numbers game. It was tough enough getting Derek Barnett on the field this past week. I mean, also you see he missed the game against the Chiefs with personal reasons. I don't really know what that's about. But as far as like the risk to it, like if they did pick up Derek Barnett, there is really no risk. Like you said, like they would owe his base salary is very low, and what was left on the remainder of that base salary, it's minimal. It's chump change in the NFL. It's not like $6.1 million, which you would have paid for Shaq Leonard. And then there's void years on the back end of his contract. That all belongs to Philly. Like the Cardinals wouldn't have to pick that up. So I just think out of it just doesn't make sense for Barnett. He would just be another name and just another face that you'd either have to let go of somebody I think that they already like, and they would have to. This is a guy that since his ACL injury hasn't been very productive.
I think about it and I double check. It does look like he is subject to waivers. Like multiple people have
Yes,
reported that. So he's not a vested veteran. And somebody come at me on Twitter saying he's vested. He can go wherever he wants. No, he's subject to waivers. The Cardinals have the number 2 waiver claim, just like they did with Michael Carter. I don't know. We're going to
that's the
disagree
advantage
here.
they have for sure, right?
Right.
I mean,
I
that's
mean,
as
he
long
was a
as
first.
the Carolina Panthers don't put a claim in on him. I mean, that's they would have first shot at him. Probably the most likely scenario where, like we said with Leonard earlier this week, where the Cardinals would be able to kind of get ahead of the line, kind of cut the line as far as being able to get these players that are going to be looking for contenders to pick them up.
I think you're looking at the bottom of this roster and you're churning and who's going to perform and what can you potentially have that sticks in 2024. That's what I'm looking like. Michael Carter's on this roster, so is Keontae Ingram. Who has a better chance to be on the roster next year? I think it might be Michael Carter, depending on how he performs. Jesse Luketa is on this roster right now, and I know he can do a bunch of stuff, and they love him. Dennis Gardeck started the year hot. Victor Dimukeje, I think obviously you want to keep. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with bringing him in if he can pass. If he passes a physical, obviously, and all of it comes down to what if he doesn't have a good relationship with Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis, then it's a moot point. And I haven't been
Mhm.
able to source that. It feels like he's just been relatively average. Obviously, he was a first round pick, but like let's say they really liked certain things he could do situationally in Philadelphia, and maybe it hasn't clicked since they left. Okay, well let's bring him in 6-week audition. Like I think there is value to be. It's a premium position. It's a position that maybe they can't fill this offseason because of the upteen of these other needs that they have at corner and defensive tackle and left guard and left tackle. I think that like what's Jesse Luketa giving you long term? Like Dennis Gardeck, you're not going to cut right now. I'd be able to carry an extra couple of defensive ends because the position is such a premium that I would want to be able to see if this guy had it. But if at any point you felt like this isn't working, you could always just release him again. But like sample size here, who's the only person getting pressure on this team right now? It's B.J. Ojulari. Like maybe Victor Dimukeje a little bit, and then obviously Dante Stills. But like even Zaven Collins hasn't been able to offer you much in terms of a pass rusher since earlier in this year. Dennis Gardeck, first half of the season was good. It's kind of fallen off now. Maybe he's just a pure special teamer the rest of the way. I don't know. I feel like there is no to
Oh,
your point. There's no
come on.
downsides to it. There's no downsides to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's downside. Like he hasn't been productive. He's been injured, and like I agree with Arizona Animal. If you bring him in, he's just taking away snaps from guys you're evaluating, guys that bring more value right now,
Who
to
am
this
I
team.
evaluating other than B.J. Ojulari and Zaven Collins? I know what the rest of these guys
I
are
think
and what they
no, I
aren't.
mean, I think that you're discounting like what Dimukeje the season that he's had. I think that Dimukeje's had a sneakily good season for this Arizona Cardinals team.
Okay.
And here's the difference between them and Barnett. They play teams. Like they offer more than hey, just pin your backs and get after the passer. And I know you said he's a good run defender, but some guys have been decent against the run as well. I think that they should know who Barnett is right now. If there is any belief between Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon, like this is somebody that you would want to, move forward with and have as a fixture of your pass rush rotation, then sure, do it. Like unless they say that, but there shouldn't be any questions as far as Barnett any longer. I mean, JG had him. I know he didn't have him the bulk of last season, but the previous year, he should know who he is, and Nick Rallis should know pretty well who he is. So there's really no sense in evaluating a guy like that. I think if they like him, they'll pick him up, but it's a deep room already. Deep more so like I guess quantity over quality, but guys that can do a lot of different things. Like Luketa is playing on the offensive side of the football. Like Derek Barnett, all he brings is playing outside linebacker. That's it.
Luketa's he's got 5 tackles this year. And the offense to me is not predicated on Luketa. Maybe that sends a bad message. You're right. I'm just we assume the Cardinals, we hope, are not going to be in a position to have the number 2 waiver claim forever. And so if they're going to roll the dice on people, and I see first round edge rusher coming from Philadelphia, and they have tons of edge rushers, right? And part of the reason he wanted to leave wasn't getting a ton of playing time. and I see my defensive coordinator, my head coach were just there with him. And I've seen Derek Barnett flash on like Sunday Night Football, not this year, obviously. Like I, I, I feel like that if there's even a chance, like a 20% chance that he can stick with this team and they can turn him into something. What are we wringing out the rag on Jesse Luketa for another couple of weeks? Like, I know that's a shitty thing to do, but man, I'm trying to see if they can hit, even if it's a diamond in the rough kind of scenario. I don't know. We're reaching here. But again, if we wake up on Monday and they've claimed him or whatever it is, then like they're gonna try to dabble. But right now, outside of B.J. Ojulari, nobody's getting pressure at the position. Myjai Sanders and Cameron Thomas were supposed to be fixtures in that position group. We remember when the season started, that has been a flaming dumpster fire. Sanders is off the team. Cameron Thomas has been a complete no-show this year. Complete no-show. So I would say everything's up for grabs at edge rusher. Outside of Ojulari and Zaven, like, and Zaven's not untouchable by any means. Ojulari is damn near untouchable, but Zaven is not. Let's just start throwing shit at the wall. You have 2 wins. What's the point not doing it?
Yeah, I just don't think there's as many unknowns with Barnett with this coaching staff
That's fine.
specifically. And Cam Thomas, I mean, Nick Rawls was very complimentary of Cam Thomas and he said he's come a long way. He was a bit lost, he admitted, training camp preseason earlier in this year, but is starting to do some things that I think they're encouraged by. And I think they'd rather see that out because Cam Thomas, if it does work out, he's under control for the next 2 seasons. Where Barnett,
is Barnett a free agent this offseason?
Well, he would be. Like if you get him, if you pick him up off waivers, if you claim him, you get the remainder of the contract, which runs for this year, and then there's a bunch of void years on it, which I said Philly's on the hook for. So he's a free agent that way. And if you pick him up post waivers somehow, he's a guy that you would just probably sign to the vet minimum. And he'd come in and then you renegotiate something in the offseason. So they're like, Luketa's under contract, Zaven's under contract, Cam Thomas under contract, Duke under contract. Like everybody's under contract beyond this year. Barnett would not be. So you'd be letting go of somebody that I think that they feel there's just more potential for upside.
Pretty big indictment of Barnett. If a team like Arizona, who's picking second, you have your former DC and your former maybe position coach opts not to pick you up for some guys that are gamers,
Philly
are grinders.
Philly just being like, hey, we're in the thick of this thing, and it's a premium position. It's former first-round pick, a guy they've invested a second contract in, guy that's made one of the biggest plays in franchise history. And it's like, okay, well, see you later. Right in the thick of this hunt for a first-round bye and trying to make their way back to a Super Bowl.
I'd be fired up about the move. I know you're a little bit indifferent. We'll see. Mervin, $10 super chat with the biggest weaknesses being exposed in this team. Yes, thank you, Mervin. We appreciate it. I will not read the rest of your avatar name though. D-line, cornerback, wide receiver, O-line again. If you have the opportunity to build the D-line DB room in the draft, do you still take Marv if possible? I think we've talked about this, Bo. Marvin Harrison Jr. Trumps any trade down scenario for me. This team has draft picks. I know they don't have a ton of like a future capital like 2025, but he is the one kind of supremely gifted blue chipper that, I mean, you trade picks for a player like that, in my opinion. Like that's what you hope to achieve. And there's no telling, like, if you pass on Marvin Harrison Jr. and you take a trade down from a New England or whomever that's coming up to get somebody else, that's going to cost you Marvin. And, I've got 2 1s next year. Well, how'd that turn out for Arizona? Like, we're fired up about this draft, but like Houston's pick's going to be in the bottom half of the first round. Like, you never know where those picks are going to be. Here's a known quantity in a generational prospect that you can have right now today, or you can take a lottery ticket next year. A big reason why the Cardinals opted to trade down last draft, Bo, was because the roster needed it, and the draft wasn't that great. Like, you're not trading down last year if there was a Nick Bosa or a Marvin Harrison Jr. S type of product. They wouldn't have passed on him, but the draft dictated that.
I'm looking at Mervin's question. Is it based on, I mean, that's what you identified as their biggest need. But when you look at this entire roster overall, like, there's needs all over the board, right? And I don't think Monty Ossenfort will be a guy that will draft based on need. I think he's going to probably draft mostly best player available that
Yeah.
he identifies as the best player available. And like, hopefully we don't get a full glimpse of it on Sunday, but we could see it as early as Sunday, like how much they do need wide receiver help, right? I mean, if Hollywood Brown doesn't play, or if he plays on a snap count, or if he's as ineffective as he's been the last couple of weeks, like they need wide receiver help. They do, because they've got 3 wide receivers under contract beyond this season, and it's Zach Pascal, it's Rondale Moore, and it's Michael Wilson, who's already missed 3 games. And this is coming off of his last 3 seasons in college, where he played 6, 4 games respectively. I mean, he played 12 games in 3 seasons at Stanford. So injury history is it's got people maybe a little concerned. So I think you take the best player available, probably the best player in the draft, and you also help boost you infuse this roster with as much talent as possible, and then you go from there. And I just don't think like you could ever make the case, like, as much as we like Jazir Newton, he's not in the same stratosphere as far as what he brings to any roster that Marvin Harrison Jr. brings.
It's like the watered down approach is real, even with picks, right? Like, I'm sorry, I'm taking a 5-star meal over like 100 trips to McDonald's. Like that, at the end of the day, it's like you want the best.
Yeah.
Like, but if you hit on a player that has all pro potential, that's better than 5 first-round picks. You can't, and especially at a top 5 position like receiver has quickly become. They don't have, whether they re-sign Hollywood Brown or they go out in free agency, they spend some money going into 2024. They don't have a number 1 receiver, like a true number 1 receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But if they take one in the first round, whether it's Marvin or somebody else, like that's the goal, is this person eventually is going to develop into that. And Marvin Harrison Jr., outside of all these other guys, Coleman and whomever, the kid from LSU and now the kid from Washington, we like those guys. We like them. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
preview them. But it's like Marvin
We
is
did.
the closest. Yeah, we did. Marvin's the closest thing to we now have a true number 1 again. We're back. We're back, baby, for the first time in a long time.
I think Marvin, though, is the exception, right? Like
Yeah.
I do agree to an extent. Like I see DD in the chat saying I disagree. I think we need to build O-line and D-line. A wide receiver touch, hit the trenches and build it up. It's a good trenches draft. And then also premium positions. Look at edge, look at corner. Certainly could use some help at cornerback. But like Marvin Harrison is the guy that can completely, like, the wide receiver touches the ball 3-4 times a game. That's not Marvin Harrison and not top wide receivers in this league. Like, watch Cooper Kupp on Sunday. He's going to touch the ball far more than 3 or 4 times a game. Guys like Devontae Adams, like their target share, it's actually, I mean, it's usually double digits. It should be, anywhere from 10 to a dozen times, and sometimes it gets higher than that. We saw with D-Hop, his first game was 14 targets. It's like that he's got that much talent, and if you force feed him the ball, and usually good things happen, and that's the difference between him and probably Keon Coleman, who, to your point, like would become a 3 to 4 touch, probably 6 to 7, 8 targets a game, making big plays, and it's probably not worth the first round investment or top 10, top 5 pick investment. But Marvin Harrison Jr., I pretty wholeheartedly agree that he is.
Good coach gets him 10 to 12 targets. Coaching matchup is going to be key this weekend, Bo Brack, as the Arizona Cardinals welcome, their daddy. Sean McVay's their daddy, especially at State Farm Stadium. He dominated Bruce Arians, Steve Wilkes, and Cliff Kingsbury for the most part. That's our key matchup of the week. It's Sean McVay versus, of course, Jonathan Gannon on Sunday, Bo. And look, you got it right there. 12-2 all time, including that postseason game. I was at that game in LA, and it was an absolute ass kicking, and it really was the beginning of the end for Cliff Kingsbury and company. But I think there are cracks in the foundation. I think that a win on Sunday by Gannon and company would do wonders for a team that maybe the arrow points up for the Cardinals heading into this offseason, into 2024. And you could really kick the Rams while they're proverbially down. You could move them to 4-7 and their season's basically over. How do you think JG stacks up at home now with his franchise quarterback against Sean McVay?
He gives you a better chance, right? Scheme wise, I think that Jonathan Gannon has shown he can do more with less than we saw Cliff Kingsbury do less with more than his tenure here, especially against the Rams. And the Rams are going to weed out your weaknesses. They're going to see what kind of what your tendencies are, and they're just going to either expose them or try to close them up for you as far as where your strengths are. And I, big credit to what McVay does. And of course, Raheem Morris, who got some looks this past offseason. I think he was a huge candidate at one point for the Indianapolis Colts job. And he's done a rock solid job since taking over the DC job there in Los Angeles against the Cardinals. And, Kyler Murray has played in far too many of those games that McVay has racked up dubs in against. Like he's 12-2 against the Cardinals, and that dates back to when McVay took over the head coaching reins. And you just mentioned against BA, like BA used to love to beat up on the Rams. He used to crush them and loved it. And that ended when McVay took over, right?
Yeah.
And I guess kind of the tides turned. And then Kyler got in here, and I think Kyler's only been a part of one win against this Rams team. You have to go back to week 4 of the 2021 season. And outside of that, it's been humble pie the entire time. And that's why it's going to be back to the point from our first segment. Like Jonathan Gannon has to change that perception, that narrative that, you can't beat McVay, you can't beat the Rams, you can't contend in this division. Like, cause you got to check that box off at some point to be able to really be a legitimate coach in this, especially in the NFC West.
Jonathan Gannon hungry for his first NFC West dub. I'm hungry for some Burrito Express, my favorite burritos in all of the Valley. We got great options here in Arizona. Not sure if you've heard, but my favorite Burrito Express, multiple locations. Love the OG location in Tempe. It's fantastic. I love not only what they do, but what they stand for, supporting ASU athletics, athletes. They've got tons of good stuff that they're doing in the community. And, they hook us up with some free food once in a while. But I also go and I take my kids to Burrito Express. We've got one right here in Chandler. I love the green chili sauce. It's fantastic. Best breakfast burrito I've ever had. So much so that like when my kids make me go and get like donuts on the weekend, I get the donuts, then I pop over to Burrito Express and I load up on their sweet breakfast burritos. Grab a burrito, follow them, Burrito Express on Twitter at Burrito EXP. I mean, like, if I'm not feeling leftovers tonight, I might stiff arm them LaDainian Tomlinson style and go for some Burrito Express instead, Bo.
Not a bad idea. I was the hit of my Thanksgiving party yesterday with family and friends because I had the newest, best seltzer. And myself a wink. I had some countdown as well. I made sure to bring some to the party. Wanted everybody to find out about the newest seltzer. Obviously, all the rage. You see them, some big names out there. You've got like High Noon. You've got, of course, like Truly, White Claw, and stuff like that. But the difference between Wink and those drinks is those are alcoholic beverages, where this is not an alcoholic beverage. This is actually THC. Wink seltzers are available online for customers who buy direct to their doorsteps at drinkwink.com. DRINKWYNK.com. It's a product with THC and CBD in each can and comes in 2.5 milligram cans and 5 milligram cans online. Zero sugar, 0 calories, come in a variety of delicious flavors like mango, lime, black cherry, which I really like. Crisp tasting, refreshing, and you don't get those hangovers like you do with alcohol. So check out what they got going on right now. You can buy them in 12, 24 variety packs and use the promo code PHNX for an additional 50% off your order. Just go to drinkwink.com and also check out what's going on with their sister product, Countdown. Right now, you buy those inside the Cannabis Tempe dispensary or all Sunday Goods locations. You got Tucson, you got the Green Med dispensary. Just saw Sunday Goods is right down the street from where I live. So might have to check it out, get myself restock some Wink there, or just go to drinkwink.com.
Love our friends, our partners at Wink. Love a dub this weekend. Will the Cardinals get a dub this weekend? I'm going to defer to my co-host here. I don't think he knows what direction I'm going, but given the first segment, I think you're a little bit more optimistic than I am.
I am. I think that the Arizona Cardinals offense will have a better showing. And what I've seen recently, or actually all season long, is a bit uneven performances from this Los Angeles Rams defense. Now, they had some success last week, and that was against, a trending down team in the Seattle Seahawks. They even knocked out Geno Smith for the end of that game. They got Drew Lock, which is hilarious that they even got to defend that quarterback. made their life a lot easier. And they
Yeah.
beat up on some bad quarterback play. And when they're able to kind of make teams one-dimensional, take away the run game, they've had a lot of success. And I think the Arizona Cardinals, let's take a look at my picks this week. I think, for God's sake, a third consecutive week, I'm picking James Conner to be my offensive star of the game, because I think this is finally the week that Drew Petzing, James Conner, they wise up and they establish the run with James Conner. And I think he'll get a little extra help here from my X Factor. I think we see some more Michael Carter. We see actually the debut of Michael Carter. He's on the active roster. Why not take advantage of him? Maybe a third down passing situational back. He can make some plays out of the backfield. And I think my defensive star potentially getting his hands on football this week is Matthew Stafford naive enough, Johnny, to maybe put one at number 3's direction? Can he get his hands on it? And Budda Baker. I like Budda Baker to have a big game. I really love what I've seen from his inside corner mates and safeties, and Jalen Thompson last week, and then Garrett Williams the last couple of weeks. I think Budda Baker is poised to have his breakout game of the 2023 campaign. And I think the Arizona Cardinals can squeak one out at home, 24-23 over the Los Angeles Rams. What do you think?
It's not where I'm headed, but here's the good news. When I've been cynical on this podcast, the team has usually responded. Is that what I'm doing this week? Is it called like a fake? Yeah.
Bulletin board material?
Yeah. I thought they were in a tough sled, and then they beat the Dallas Cowboys. I did not see that coming. I think we both predicted the Atlanta win. I don't know if they got the horses this weekend. I'll just be blunt, and I've seen this too many times. Like, we're overly reliant on Hollywood Brown. I've seen that before. I've seen Sean McVay with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp coming to State Farm Stadium. I know how that ends. And this is what I'm going with. Damon Dog, if you could, I think Cardinals are going to lose this game. I hate to say that. I thought earlier in the week, I love the pick 'em mindset. I think the folks in Vegas may be reading the tea leaves a little bit. The Cardinals need to show me that they can put together an offensive game plan and be competent. I haven't seen competence in a hot minute. And I thought they were a little uneven against Atlanta, but I thought, okay, that's the jumping off point. If Trey McBride does not have 8 to 10 targets this week, I think it's a borderline fireable offense for Drew Petzing. He is your most consistent playmaker right now. He's a mismatch. Like James Conner, Kyler Murray, and Trey McBride are your 3 mismatches offensively. Like, Hollywood Brown's not a mismatch for anybody right now. Like, he's getting engulfed by number 1 corners. You can't dispute that. That's fact. Whereas Trey McBride is undressing first and second round safeties the last couple of weeks. You need to feed him the football. If the Cardinals are going to win this game, they have to throw the football, and they have to throw it to number 85. Again, I love B.J. Ojulari, what he's been able to do. Explosive off the edge. You got to make Matthew Stafford uncomfortable. You have to make sure that he feels like there's ghosts coming after him. Seeing ghosts. When the Cardinals went to L.A., what was that, 2 years ago under Cliff Kingsbury, and Stafford had a bad game, he was seeing ghosts that day. Got to get back to that. Number 18's got to be in the backfield. Rams' offensive line is shit. It's not very good. Like, even with the loss of Lecky Fotu and Kazir White, I'd be blitzing the hell out of Stafford, because I don't want to sit there in the cover 2 zone of Vance Joseph once upon a time and like Cooper, Kupp, and Puka run wild. Like, if I'm going to lose trying to blitz. And I think the Cardinals showed you last week they want to blitz more. They blitzed CJ Stroud, and they finally got home in the second half. And then the X factor. Greg Dortch right now, after what I saw last week, I'm willing to say it, like, probably your most reliable receiver, which is egregious because he hasn't been playing enough this year. Rondale Moore disappears, and Hollywood Brown, where's Hollywood Brown? Like, this is like Christian Kirk-esque second half of the year disappearing act. Greg Dortch showed me last week, you get him the football, yards after catch, separation. Like, I'm winning this game if I'm Drew Petzing with number 85, 83, 1, and number 6 in James Conner. That's it. Hollywood Brown not practicing Thursday and Friday. Anybody think he's going to roll out of bed on Sunday and go for 150? Like, I'm sorry. I've seen that too many times. That not happen. So I think Cardinals are going to lose this game. And then it becomes very, very difficult for this franchise now to have to go to Pittsburgh. Like, I don't want to show up on the show Monday and say, second overall pick, what's happening with Kyler Murray? I don't want to do that because I'm not putting this on Kyler Murray. But I just, right now, he's not, for lack of a better term, no pun intended, he's not playing with a full deck. We need some playmakers for Kyler Murray. You have a couple. I just don't trust Drew Petzing right now to use them. No more 50-50 balls to Hollywood Brown. I'm sorry, I've seen that. He has to show me separation, get open, force the issue. Because right now, I'm forcing the issue to 85. I'm forcing the issue to 83. Not a fan. Not a fan.
I think that the players you named, as far as if they're going to have success, they can have success. Like if they do feed Trey McBride, if they do get James Conner going in the run game, and Greg
Physical.
Dortch is proven that he can play bigger than he is. Obviously, 5'8", and he can kind of make plays in the passing game like he does in the return game, and that should be enough, especially with Kyler Murray, if he can get back to his debut week status, or even where we thought he was going to go last week, which was going to continue to trend up, which he's capable of doing. I'm not completely out on Petzing. I know you're skeptical. I think that's a bit unfair. Is after a bad performance against the Texans, should benefit from some home cooking here, not dealing with the crowd, a hostile crowd, and everybody's been, from players I've heard, like Houston brought it last week. They're going to be back at State Farm Stadium. I think, and when you look at the Rams right now, I mean, I know they're getting Kyron Williams back, and that's something we're sleeping on a little bit too much because of how amazing he was in the second half. The last time these two teams met up, like Stafford and Kupp, they're beat up. They're not at full strength, and I think that the Cardinals could certainly take advantage of that.
I know we're giving them grace because the Atlanta outing, and that was a good game plan. I liked it. It featured Trey McBride, but like before that, they hadn't been very competent offensively.
Josh Dobbs, Clayton Tune. Come on,
I get
man.
it, and again, I get it. And this is
you can't criticize him on that.
Here, okay, that's fair. I can criticize anybody. I'm not calling for his job. Like there are people on Twitter saying fire him, it's over. No, he'll get another year.
You said fireable offense if Trey McBride doesn't have 10 to 12
I do think that. Like if you're out there throwing to Zach Pascal over Trey McBride, I'm gonna be fucking pissed watching the Gila River on Wild Horse Pass on Sunday. But I don't think he's gonna do that. I think he's too smart to do that. What I will say, at the end of the day, who's a dog on offense for this team offensively? Kyler Murray, James Conner. I think Greg Dortch is a dog. I think Trey McBride's a dog. I think everybody else in the receiving core of skill players, I think it's TBD. Who's a guy, a gamer that I can count on? I think you got about 4 of them that you got to go to this weekend. Like it's fourth quarter and I need somebody to make a play. Mm-hmm. I saw Trey McBride go back on a football and made a play to bail out his quarterback 2 weeks ago. Kyler Murray, we know he's a dog. James Conner. Greg Dortch is a dog. 100-plus yards against the Niners on Monday Night Football last year in Mexico City. Like Hollywood Brown does not have a more recent 100-yard game in Arizona than Greg Dortch does. Think about that for a second. Mm-hmm. Hollywood Brown has more time spanned in Arizona with a 100-yard game than Greg Dortch. But Greg Dortch has probably played, 75% less snaps than Hollywood Brown. And I get it. It's matchups, it's situation. But like the facts are the facts. Anybody predicting that Hollywood Brown's going to go off this weekend, I would love to eat a big pile of crow on Monday. I would love that. I root for Hollywood Brown. I root for these players to do well. This is who he is. Who he is 700-800 yards, flash in the pan, play here or there. I need who's helping us win this game on Sunday. I'm going to go with the guy, the tight end that is right now is trending to be a top 5 tight end in the NFL. That should be your focal point on Sunday. Who the Rams have nobody to stop Trey McBride. They have plenty of players to stop Hollywood Brown.
Well, I mean, and Hollywood Brown needs to revert back to where he was earlier this season. Sure, it wasn't 100-yard games, but it was pretty damn close to it, where he was making big plays on third down. And it wasn't go routes, right? It wasn't go routes down the field trying to win those one-on-ones. It was, having great breaks in his route and getting open at crucial situations and coming up with the football. And if he can do that, if he can be that reliable receiver, somewhat as much possession receivers as a player the size of Hollywood Brown can be, that would do just wonders for this offense and Kyler Murray as far as staying on the field, making plays, moving the chains, and then putting themselves in a position for success in the red zone.
Yeah, I want to believe, I want to be sitting there at halftime doing the show at Wild Horse Pass, talking about pleasant surprise. Hollywood Brown, 4 grabs, 65 yards, trending in the right direction. I've been waiting for that. Time's running out. You got 6 games here. Jalen Blair, preaching for Hollywood, and we got a lot of people in the Hollywood camp. $5. Hollywood would do better if they threw him some catchable passes. Out of his targets, only 56% have been catchable. League average is 71. And again, now this is the time though. You're going to have 8 games with Kyler Murray if you're Hollywood Brown.
A lot of Dobbs though. That's a lot of Dobbs, and then the beginning of the Kyler Murray tenure, those deep go balls where, like we were talking with Baldy, you're not giving him a chance. But no, completely agree. Great point.
I also think like it was always going to be ugly with Joshua Dobbs and Clayton Tune. So again, like I'm willing to separate that. We called this half of the season like season 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a different dynamic, but offense cost them the game last week.
Yeah.
Will it cost them the game on Sunday? Hopefully not. Hopefully they can drum up some offense, because you can on any given Sunday. It feels like Baltimore does this all the time. You got a mobile quarterback, you got some running backs you like, you got a high-performing tight end, you got some B and C receivers. You can put together a game plan to put enough points on the board, right? I need to see that from Drew Petzing. Who's under more pressure this weekend, Drew Petzing or Hollywood Brown, in your opinion?
Hollywood Brown.
Yeah. Drew Petzing's a made man with Jonathan Gannon. He was his number one offensive coordinator candidate last spring. It's the guy he wanted. And they will not be able to evaluate Drew Petzing until he has a franchise quarterback for 17 weeks, for the most part. Like, it's not fair. Hollywood Brown, are these his final 6 games in Arizona? I think it remains to be seen. What doesn't remain to be seen is, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to win money. You could win money with the Arizona lottery, but you got to go out and get your holiday scratchers, though. Your scratch offs. Love those. Holiday scratchers from Arizona Lottery make last minute shopping easy. They're the perfect gift. They're on everybody's wish list this holiday season, and they're plug and play. I wish Hollywood Brown was a little bit more plug and play, but Arizona Lottery, they are, and they can just get them for $1. $1. They got other ones, $2, $5, $10. $1 scratch offs, top prizes up to $500,000. Go out, buy your holiday scratchers today. They're fantastic. Everybody loves them. Everybody gets fired up, right? I mean, we talk about it all the time on this show. It's like, let's just get a penny out, start scratching off scratch offs. Love it. Love doing it. Put the kids to bed. Have a good time.
Can't beat holiday scratchers. Gonna load up on those easy stocking stuffers, no doubt about it. Great white elephant gifts. You're looking for an affordable gift to give everybody you care about in your world. Holiday scratcher. Also check out what's going on. ShadyRays.com. Perfect gift as well. Well below $100 price point for some premium polarized sunglasses. It's an independent sunglasses company. World-class product. They're just really durable frames for extremely clear optics for all your outside adventures. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection plan on all eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by a lost or broken replacement policy that's tough to beat. If you lose your sunglasses, you break them, they're going to replace them long after your purchase. Check out their full product line right now, ShadyRays.com. That's ShadyRays.com. You can check out their store up in North Scottsdale, and you could tell them the promo code PHNX. You could take advantage of their huge deal right now. They're Black Friday, so don't miss out. Snow goggles, prescription sunglasses. Go to ShadyRays.com and try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
You want to save some money? No better place right now than go PHNX.com. Black Friday, baby. The sale of the year is happening at the PHNX merchandise locker. I bought a t-shirt last night at the stroke of midnight for 99 cents. Checking out, I put it on my Twitter timeline, but more than just dollar shirts. How about cheap hoodies, sweatshirts, hats, shirts, gear, stickers, whatever you want, up to 90% off right now. Black Friday sale. Spend $75. Get a $15 gift card. You can stack promotions, become a diehard, get a piece of merch, full price for free, and then dabble. Go to town. Remake your closet, your wardrobe with the biggest sale that we do here. Again, $2 shirts, 99-cent shirts, half off, 60% off, 30% off. Check them out. And then how about that new gear, baby? Chef's Kiss. Tucson, home of winners right now with I think the number 15, 17th ranked Wildcats of U of A football. Arizona versus everybody. Love to see that. Coyotes gear, Sun Devils gear, PHNX Sun Devils, PHNX Coyotes. The Anti-Hero Basketball Ball Club. Love to see that. Too much will kill you. love to see that. Too much of PHNX merch will not kill you, contrary to popular belief. Get it right now. The best sale that we do, the biggest sale that we do, is now until I believe through Monday, through Cyber Monday. Stuff's going quick. You know, I got my Greg Dortch t-shirt last night, got notified. Like, there's only so many of these left. It's a high iron item. I just mentioned he's got a more recent 100-yard game than both Hollywood Brown and Rondale Moore. So go buy his t-shirt, support it, support the Greg Dortch podcast here at PHNX Cardinals, Bo.
Where's the Cardinals? We got all that new gear. We don't have any PHNX Cardinals gear in there. What are we doing? Come on. Let's go buy. Let's just go buy out all the Cardinals gear right now in the locker right now.
There's nothing left, so they have to give us new shirts.
And then they'll say, "Hey, I think people like this Cardinals team. I think they like this PHNX Cardinals show." Yeah, it's you're saving a ton of money. You're getting some great gift options right there. It's what it's all about. We love what's going on in the PHNX locker. Take advantage of the Black Friday show or sale going on, and of course, OG's Flavoring Fridays. Don't miss out on what we're doing here. We're flavoring up your Fridays with our friends over at OG's Brands. Of course, what's going on with the great Arizona Cannabis Company right here in the great state of Arizona. PR Mac, Greg Dortch, I feel, is going to have another big game. Shows up each and every week. He's had 2 monstrous plays, one on teams, punt return 2 weeks ago against Atlanta. It was game-changing, put him in the Falcons territory, led to a score. And then this past week, he got it going, big catch and run. A lot of yak that a lot of people didn't think he was going to get on that play. Bounced off a would-be tackler and turned into a big game for himself. Yep, that'd be a huge 3 straight weeks for Greg Dortch.
Like we sit here and we love Greg. He's a friend of the program. He's part of the program. It would not shock me if I had to guess right now. If you told me a receiver went over 100 yards this weekend, I would say it was Greg Dortch, just based on the fact that like Rondale Moore ain't it right now. Doesn't get the targets for whatever reason, just hasn't clicked with Hollywood Brown. And we saw like Kyler had a good rapport with Greg Dortch early last season. Like, dude, when he's given opportunities, he's earned them, and he goes out there and performs. Like he had like top 5 separation in 2022. He's one of the most undervalued players in the NFL. And I think I would love nothing more than like, if I'm going to lose, I want to lose with my best players, given every opportunity to make plays. And like, you can't dispute it. Like last week, he gave them a spark offensively. I thought they could have gone to a more, but just the intermediate passing game, which has been dead for the Cardinals this year. It's dead. It's in the ground right now. We got to revitalize it here at the end of 2023 into 2024. That's where Gregory Dortch eats. Like, I don't care about big plays and bombs right now. Can you sustain drives? Can you cross the 50-yard line? Can you be productive in the red zone? That guy tore the NFL apart last year and in training camp this year. Between the 20s, between the hashes, he can go out and manufacture 8, 10, 12 catches for you. I think Gregory Dortch has a big game, regardless of how the Cardinals end up on Sunday.
Are you different level relationship with Dortch where you just call him Gregory all the time?
Yeah. Well, I feel like in the
but to like Baldy's point earlier this week
with him. So do you call him like G-Rag? On the broadcast, they call him Gregory. So I call him Gregory a lot. Mr. Gregory Dortch, sir.
Who calls him Gregory Dortch? Wolf?
Like the broadcasters.
Yeah. Wolf usually does, right? But
yeah.
Most sane individuals who don't have those.
I'm sorry, I'm not best friends. I don't have him in my phone like you do. You guys are big time.
He calls David Patch too. Like that's his thing.
You need to start calling me Jonathan, even though that's not my name.
Never will. Never.
Okay.
But Greg Dortch, G, whatever you want to call him, just don't call him Gregory.
I'm going to call him football player because he's a football player. Greg Dortch, professional football.
The Baldy's point, though, like as great as it is to have Greg Dortch put up big numbers and be a part of this offense, a big part of it, you need everybody else. You need the players like the second round drafted tight end McBride to have a big game again, and you need a guy that you spent a first round pick on in a trade in Hollywood Brown to have a big. I think you need that. You need that to be successful.
Well,
a successful day on offense.
I just time's up. It feels like we're getting to the point where the hourglass is striking zero here. The people that are running the show now did not make that deal. Would never have made that deal. Now you and I liked it at the time. That's not their responsibility.
Right.
They're like, if at the end of the day,
we liked it because Steve Keim had zero ability to draft an actual wide receiver himself. So that's why we liked it.
And listen, Treylon Burks has vomited all over himself. That's not been a good pick. Dotson's been good. Wilson's victim of
He was before the
circumstance.
Cardinals. Both
Right.
those guys were off the board.
I mean, hindsight, you take Tyler Lindenbaum there, or you take, I mean, McDuffie's been fantastic for Kansas City, but I just, that I put it on my Johnny in the spot that dropped today. Like, the Cardinals lost the Hollywood Brown trade. That's indisputable. Like, Myjai Sanders is off the team. Hollywood Brown could be 6 weeks away from being off the team.
Yeah.
And Tyler Lindenbaum's going to make like 10 Pro Bowls for the Baltimore Ravens. But again, just like the Cardinals lost the Isaiah Simmons draft pick, like that was a bust, right? They moved on from that. They took their losses. I think we're 6 weeks away from, like, if you ask me right now, I don't think he's back next year, because unless something dramatically changes here, by the way, against good defensive teams like Chicago notwithstanding, Seattle's got good corners. We've seen that. The Steelers are elite defensively. They got to play the Niners in Santa Clara. Like, they need Hollywood Brown to perform these next 6 weeks. If he comes out and has like 200 yards and finishes the season with like 650 yards or 700 yards, like, that's, the decision is made up. It's over. You got to move on. Like, I see a lot of people allocate a cheap, prove it deal. Hollywood Brown is going to get money from somebody else. Somebody else will look at Hollywood Brown and say the production, this victim of circumstances, different offense. Carolina, somebody like that will pay Hollywood Brown more than the Cardinals are willing to spend. Yeah. Look what this team does at receiver. They inherited a bunch of undersized receivers, one of which in Gregory Dortch that I think can play above his stature. They signed Zach Pascal, who's big, and they drafted Michael Wilson, who's big. And they really like Trey McBride, who's big. They have a type. We all have a type. They have a type. They want big, physical wide receivers. That's not Hollywood Brown.
Love it. Sports hero, Sir Gregory Dortch. Eli following up, Sir Gregorius the Dortch. The Torch. It is Sir Gregorius the Torch. That's a great name.
We fall in love with players, fall in like with players. It's a production league.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I've said it so many times as far as the rebuild goes. Not for the faint of heart. Like, all the players that you fell in love with, that you talked yourself into, mostly because you have the Stockholm syndrome, because you have no other, you've got to believe at some point your organization is going to make the right decision under Steve Keim and crew, that they were able to at least hit on some of these guys. But this new regime is churning this roster. And, Jalen Blair, I agree to this to an extent, right? The staff is watching the film every week and seeing missed opportunities for Hollywood Brown, and they're evaluating it differently than us outside the building, no doubt about it, right? I mean, but at the same time, they're going to know exactly what their value for Hollywood Brown is and what he brings to a team. And if it's a guy that goes out there and his teammates, his quarterback, whatever it may be, are missing opportunities on him, they're going to bring somebody that they're going to hit on opportunities with, or that's going to create their own opportunities. And that's the kind of one of the big differences between guys who make, anywhere from $5 to $10 million to guys who make $15 to $25 to $30 million. And that's what's happening in this league. And I think, there's a guy at the top of the draft that I think is going to project as one of those guys. And then, who knows who becomes available. But one thing we could tell you for sure, Hollywood Brown isn't one of those guys.
We know what he is. He's been in the league for 5 years, and he's got 1,000-yard receiving season. And it wasn't in Arizona. And you could say victim of circumstance. I wish he had been able to play more games with Kyler Murray, but they specifically decided not to trade him at the trade deadline. There were offers, there were calls, because they said, go out there and ball with Kyler Murray, win us games, get big production. We want to be able to give you a big money deal if you force the issue. Guess who's not forcing the issue right now? Guess who's got 6 weeks to prove that? If he goes out and has 6 100-yard games, fuck yeah, we're having a different conversation. I'll eat all the crow. I want that to happen. I like Hollywood Brown. Does anybody think that's going to happen? A guy who hasn't had a 100-yard game since last year against the LA Rams, 120 yards in a losing effort, his 100-yard game as a member of the Arizona Cardinals, that's suddenly just going to change? No, like, we have seen it. Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, these guys kick ass and take names every single Sunday. That's a number one receiver. That's who you pay generational money to. Cardinals, my guess is They're going to go try to find their own version of that in April. They're going to say, well, we got all these premium picks, a top 5 pick, a top 20 pick, hopefully, a top 40 pick. They're going to take a wideout, and they're going to say, grow with Kyler Murray in, his mid-20s and perform for us. Maybe they take multiple. Maybe they hit on another mid-rounder. But I also think, to your point about Derek Barnett, the Cardinals did a great job this year opening up opportunities on the field for young players to play, right? They didn't let Zach Pascal stand in the way of Michael Wilson. You re-sign Hollywood Brown, best friends with Kyler Murray, and then you take fucking Marvin Harrison Jr., and Michael Wilson's having a great camp next year. Guess who's not playing in week 1, at least in the base package, when you're trying to run the ball and be physical? Hollywood Brown. You also have to ask yourself a question of, are there snaps for Hollywood Brown next year in this offense if we get a big premium first-round wide receiver? I don't know. Maybe not.
And if people like Hollywood in the slot and they think he could thrive in the slot, they would already put him there. Like
I don't like experiments. I'm done with experimenting.
Yeah.
Give me known quantities. We've experimented too much of this franchise. Let's play guys out of position. Let's tinker. I think Gregory Dortch is a pretty good slot receiver. Can we just do that? Is that a thing we can do? I've seen him do that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more on Rondale this week. I think Rondale continues to.
I hope so, because he's cheap and under contract next year. He's making no money next year. That's not going to be Hollywood Brown.
We've got PR Max saying, honestly, the message today we should lock up Dortch. He's proven it. Sports Hero saying, I think they kept Hollywood because Kyler's relationship with him next year, he's gone. Jalen Blair, Hollywood isn't a number 1, but you still need a number 2. Eli, Hollywood, money bag emoji. It's going to cost him. And then Eddie, maybe we could get Terry McLaurin from Washington. I mean, they're going to detonate that organization, no doubt about it. I mean, they already started today. Jalen, yes, because they're still going to run 11 personnel. We could have 3 receivers. You can play any position that's best for the offense. Look, they're going to have a price in mind for Hollywood Brown. We know JG likes Hollywood Brown, but we'll see how far that goes. But the next opportunity is Sunday. And Hollywood Brown got to get himself healthy enough to go on Sunday, officially questionable against the Rams. Last team he put up 100 yards against. Can he maybe repeat that performance? We'll see. It would do him a lot of good. It would do this offense a lot of good coming off of last week's performance against the Houston Texans. We are live from Gila River Casino at Wild Horse Pass this Sunday. Johnny, Britton Golden, come down, hang with the fellas, hang with the PHNX Sports crew. Got more giveaways. Got tickets to the next home game, I believe, as well. Don't miss on that, Johnny. I-10, Wild Horse Pass. That's right where the casino is. It's where we can join us. Ton of stuff to do. Great food. Got the swing suite. Must be 21 years or older. We apologize to people who went home last time. Come join us on Sunday for the Cardinals game against the Los Angeles Rams. But we'll be talking to you, kickoff just after 2 p.m. So we'll be firing up the mics about 1:35. Anything else before we get everybody out into their weekend?
Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out if you haven't already. Johnny on the spot this morning. Yesterday's draft podcast, by the way. Bo and I go and we do a deep dive into some premium wide receivers not named Marvin Harrison Jr. We also double down on a mock draft that may or may not include a trade down with some additional picks. But, of course, everything you need right here. PHNX Sports on YouTube. Not the last plug of the weekend, but the last plug on this show. The Black Friday sale ongoing. Check us out on social at Bo Brack. I'm Johnny Venerable. Thanks for the support. Happy holidays. We'll see you Sunday.
We all silly like the mayor.